Welcome to the Spy Collection. My name is Anastasios, and following our previous two videos reviewing some of the allegedly leaked US intelligence community documents, we'll look at another one, this time from the Defense Intelligence Agency, the DIA. It's this document, but before we start going through it, we want to stress again that we cannot assess the validity of this document, whether its content is accurate or not, or the intention behind its public disclosure. Nevertheless, it's a unique piece of modern spy history which can be used both as an educational material for intelligence analysis and production, as well as for historical purposes in case it turns out to be an authentic, publicly leaked DIA document. As always, we have reconstructed the document in digital format so that it's easier to explain and go through it. And with that said, on the top left we have the insignia of the United States Joint Chief of Staff, which shows us who was its recipient. Its title was Russia-Ukraine Assessed Combat Sustainability and Attrition, and its classification was secret with RELIDO dissemination control. Before explaining what RELIDO is, note that this is not the classification of the entire report. It's the classification for its title only. The document's classification should be on its top and bottom, but it's not visible from the photograph shared on social media. Now, RELIDO stands for Releasable by Information Disclosure Official, and practically means that the designated intelligence disclosure officials can share it further, and those are typically some very senior officials. What this is telling us is that DIA consider this something quite sensitive but potentially useful to share with key partners. However, only if the senior leadership explicitly wanted to do that. On the bottom left, we have the insignia of the DIA, which shows us who produced this finished intelligence product, as well as a statement saying that the intelligence community is revising its methodology on combat sustainability reporting on equipment in Russia's garrisons and strategic reserves, equipment associated with Russian and Ukrainian reserve forces, and new calculations to incorporate captured and abandoned equipment. DIA will introduce this new methodology in a combat sustainability tabloid that will publish weekly in late February. In the spy world, what is described here is known as a standing intelligence requirement, meaning the DIA will turn this into a standing IR that is published on a weekly basis. In case you wonder, other common types of IRs are the ad hoc or on demand, which are the opposite of standing. They are one-offs. It also shows us how tedious tasks that troops on the ground might be struggling with, like inventorying captured, destroyed, or abandoned equipment, is actually translated by military intelligence analysts. Now back to our intelligence product. On the top, we have the summary of the situation. As you see at the end of it, this was classified separately as secret with a no foreign marking, meaning it's not to be shared with anyone outside of the United States. It says, we have low confidence in Russian and Ukrainian attrition rates and inventories because of information gaps, operation security, and information operations efforts, and potential bias in Ukrainian information sharing. Casualty assessments, which fluctuate depending on the source, are informed by Russian, Wagner, and Ukrainian officials. In the below sustainability assessments, high indicates the forces can sustain operations across all domains. Moderate indicates the forces have difficulty sustaining operations in one domain, and low indicates the forces are unable to sustain operations across multiple domains. This is a very crucial piece in this intelligence product, since it instructs the recipient into the sources, the knowns and unknowns, as well as what the estimative wording used practically means. The last thing a spy agency wants is their customers to make assumptions on what the reports might mean. For instance, a person might perceive moderate as something different from another. This is why this is so important to note. Additionally, this paragraph indicates that the DIA had sources that include Russian, Ukrainian, and Wagner private military company officials. It's not, however, clear if those are through official, publicly available statements that those officials were making, or they are clandestine human sources recruited by a US spy agency. Based purely on the classification markings, we can assume it was through official statements, not clandestine human sources, but it's hard to be certain about it with the publicly available information. Moving next, we have Russia and Ukraine, both assessed as moderate. For Russia, this is because Russia continues to fall behind stated goals for the replacement of equipment and personnel to support operations in Ukraine. Russia has also incorporated the use of older, less accurate munition systems to overcome depletion of more modern system inventories. And for Ukraine, moderate because Ukraine has sustained defensive and support operations with available inventories for over 6 months. Despite loss in air and air defense domains, Ukraine has also demonstrated the successful integration and implementation of provided Western systems. Next, we have the casualties, which based on the summary is a highly debatable number since Russia, Ukraine and Wagner PMC sources all provided assessments that were fluctuating drastically. We assume that this is also why the DIA decided to split that into those sections: the DIA assessment, the official Ministry of Defense assessment from both sides, as well as some summaries from other parties. Considering that no data is visible in this photograph of the allegedly leaked DIA document, we will not spend any more time in this section. Next, the report splits the inventory into the 3 domains: ground, air defense, and air. Clearly, we try to replicate the visualizations as accurately as possible, but there could be small differences on the graphs. However, our goal here is not to review the situation in Ukraine and Russia, but to study this from the intelligence analysis and production perspective. And first, we have the ground forces, where Ukraine was in a better state than Russia. Specifically, the DIA split the readiness of all the inventories to those in storage, in the field of operations, and destroyed, and in particular for Ukraine, also separating the equipment delivered versus the equipment used actively in the field. It would be great to know how the DIA analysts came to this categorization, since we can all be certain there were many more perspectives to represent the same information. And that leads us to another aspect of intelligence analysis and production. Even when you have done the analysis, the next major challenge is how to communicate it so that it won't lose any context or provide misleading information. Next, we have a similar assessment for the air defense capabilities of Russia and Ukraine, where Russia was in a better state when this report was published. And lastly, the Air Force capabilities, where again, Russia was in a better situation both for fixed wing and rotary wing aircrafts. Unfortunately, due to the way this photograph was taken, we're missing some important information, like the serial number and date, classification markings, potentially its I code, and generally details that can help us better understand the context around this military intelligence product. Unlike our previous reviews of leaked documents that were mainly focusing on tactical and operational intelligence material, this one is touching another aspect where intelligence is crucial. That is SA and strategic intelligence. Products like this one can help policymakers identify the right course of action to, again, change this balance, in this case to the United States' advantage, as well as acting as early warning indicators for the direction of the war. Apparently, all countries involved will be producing similar products based on the capabilities of their military intelligence apparatus. It's also worth noting that this is one of those intelligence products that is just one single page, but it requires a significant amount of work from intelligence analysts, since it involves a wide variety of sources, including some with increased level of uncertainty, and all of that is performed while the data are still constantly changing. If you'd like us to continue going through those allegedly leaked documents, please let us know in the comments below. In the meantime, please remember that we still don't know who was the source, if those documents are accurate, fabricated, or just fake, and why they are now available in the public domain. As stated before, all of the content and practices align with what you would expect from modern spy agencies. They are a very useful material for anyone interested in the world of analytical tradecraft and military intelligence, but we should not forget that nothing is as it seems.